Okay, this video will show how to perform the upgrade from air tire to solid tire. This is from November 2025, where this is called version 3 motors. If you had the before that, we use a different setup. Only the motor will be compatible to replace, but in this case we have to replace the whole wheel motor and the swing arm. So I will do one side, and this is the way we will receive it. It's a swing arm with the wheel already installed to it. So we will have to replace it here where the hinge of the swing arm is, and then also the shock. So for this job we will need a 5mm 6 17. I need a 13, and the 6 will do for the shock. Okay, so let me show how you will work against the table here. What we're gonna do, if I'm working on the left, this one is the right, so I'll have to do the other way. Okay, so if I'm working on the right, I will put the trike on the left side here against the table. So what I do, I will lock the steering forward. So you will lock the steering straight, bring the trike against the table, and let's put the handlebar and lean the trike against the table. It's kind of a little bit unstable, so I'll bring the front wheel a little bit more wide here, so it's well locked. So here's where we're gonna work. We're gonna work on this wheel. So to start, I will unplug the wheel, the motor from the here, okay, and also I will disconnect the caliper from the swing arm. So you will transfer these things to the new swing arm. So once you remove these two bolts that hold the caliper bracket, okay, let me see if okay. So remember what we are doing here. It's a little maneuver. Okay. Remember, you will do the same. You will come first with this side here, and then put through the brake rotor, and then put these two bolts. But again, here, and leave it dangling. Okay. So the next step here will be to remove the bolt that holds the shock to the swing arm. I need a 13mm open end wrench, and I need the 6mm to hold the head of this bolt. Okay, I have a 6mm Allen wrench that goes to the head of the bolt. This is the bolt that holds the swing arm, the shock to the swing arm. And on this side here, it's a nut. With the 13, you will lose that nut, and okay, so you will work until this thing is totally loose. Okay, once you remove the nut, some models will have a little hole some models will have a little hole in this side here that I can push that bolt through. But on this one, it's an older model. I have to work the bolt, push there on the head and then on the threads. And sometimes you have to kind of swing this thing up and down a little bit until you can pull the, and sometimes you just by turning the bolt, the thread will help to extract the bolt. Okay, so this is what we remove it, bolt and a nut. So now the swing arm, oh, we forgot something here. For the swing arm to come out, there's a stopper here. So now it's time for us to remove the stopper. Okay, so you just remove these two bolts. So we remove these two bolts, you remove the stopper. Now we can swing this arm all the way. Easy, right? So let's do the same when we reinstall. Here's the stopper. So what we have to do, this side here, this is an old model, but it's a 6 millimeters. And my old model was a 5, but anyways, just hold the head here and we'll use this open end. I think we're looking from the back here will show the whole scenario. Okay, so okay. So what's important here? What's important here is the sequence of the parts. So you have the nut, you have this washer, okay? And then once you have the nut and the washer, you can push this through, you see, all the way, and the swing arm is gone. Pay attention here, this swing arm, one of the bushings stayed here. Okay, sometimes it comes off, but it stayed on this side because it's a little stuck here. The other side, I will reuse this spacer bushing. Okay, I will reuse on the new swing arm. So remember, there's one that is basically what we separate between left and right here is basically the direction that we put the brake rotor. Okay, so this one is good for the right, the left will just, the only difference, the brake rotor will be facing the other way. So here it is. I will install the old bushing here inside. I will align here the bolt with the bushing. This spacer has to be here and this washer. Okay, so make sure they go through. And you have to wiggle a little bit. Okay, the other spacer has to go through that bushing. Okay, have to play a little bit here, but it's okay. We got now the tip of the axle. We'll put our washer and then the nut. So again, is the bolt axle, a washer, and then a spacer. The same thing on this side, the spacer, then the washer, and then the nut. So we need to tighten this. Stay there. Okay. Once you get that kind of tight, you will hold this side and crank on this nut. Okay. So you test here, the swing arm is swinging, and then the next step will be to get the shock. You see these two dropouts here. We'll get the shock through it, and then we will add the bolt. So the bolt will go through here. So you may need to move both things until you get the bolt through. Okay. So when the bolt starts showing the tip, on the other side you will add the nut. So yeah, see there's a the bolt is showing already. Of course, the tools will fall. Okay. Okay, so back with my 13 millimeters and the six on the head. Okay, so now once it's tight, I will torque it. Okay, so I position myself here. Okay, so we have the shock in place. Let's put our stopper back. Basically what the stopper does is to, instead that the whole movement here stops at with the shock, we use this stopper here to protect the shock basically. And when you are taking apart, the swing arm will not just fall in this direction here. So what happened, there's a rubber pad here. So that is where the swing arm will rest. So make sure you tight weld these two bolts. Let's torque. Okay. So next step will be to reconnect the power to the motor, find the line or the arrow. On the other side there's the same thing, and make sure you insert like 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so the wheel is assembled, and now let's work with this guy. Remember, this thing goes like this, twist it, and then look at the brake pads. We'll go on the brake rotor, and now these two bolts here will get the bracket. Okay, you just have to find them. So Here they are. 1, 2. You see, we did not disconnect the caliper from the bracket. We did not disconnect the oil hose line. Don't do it, because if you do, you will have to bleed the brakes, and that's a different situation. So we just finished replacing the right side, and the left side will be the same, but you will invert the trike on the table here. One thing is important here. Let me show. You see that some way this brake rotor is a little bit different from the former one. Okay, so the caliper was adjusted to that wheel. You see that the brake rotor is against one of the walls, is not centered with the caliper. So what we're gonna do here is to loosen these 2 bolts that holds the caliper to the bracket. Okay. So this way now the caliper is loose, and I can move the caliper back and forth. And I want to center the caliper to the body of the caliper to the rotor. Okay, the rotor has to be in the center of this slot. Once you get more or less centered, this is one way. More or less centered, you can tighten little by little these bolts. Don't tighten all at once. Tighten little by little. Another way is if you leave them a little loose, you can apply brake, parking brake here. You see I'm locking the brake. So the caliper the pads are pushing against the rotor and giving me a nice alignment as well. But this is not perfectly centered, I think, because of the old caliper. So I will release and do by hand here, because one pad is closer to the rotor than the other one. But anyways, you may need to recenter the caliper, realign the caliper, because the wheels are different, the motors are different, and the brake rotor will fall into a different position. Okay, we just finished that. The last thing we have to do here is to add a zip tie to this cable. So why we need to add a zip tie to the cable? Because this can get caught by your feet or on something. What we want to do is basically get these 2 guys together, the brake hose and this and the cable. Okay. At the same time, it helps to keep this connection always push it in. Okay, so here's the zip tie. Trim the zip tie. Yeah, we just replaced. So again, we put the swing axle, okay, with the washer, spacer, nut, everything. We torque it well. We reinstalled the shock to the swing arm, 13 and 6, and we torque it. It's coming already assembled for you, you know, the axle, and we reconnect the cable, and also we reinstalled the stopper. So we did this side, and when you're gonna do the other side, basically you will invert. Remember, where you put the front wheel is important here, because then it will define the balance of the whole trike. So the front wheel has to be a little bit more away from the table, and of course this has to be locked to work. Now I can work on the left side, the same thing. I will start with the cable, removing cable, I will go to the swing arm here to the shock. But remember, then we have to remove this stopper. And the last thing will be the axle, and start again by the axle and work your way to the assembly, okay? And then the caliper situation that I already explained. So there's a video showing how to replace the front one. That's a simple replacement. The only thing is to add this new spacer on the outside. And the rear one, they are the same, both sides, just a different setup. As I said, the difference between left and right is basically only the brake rotor direction, okay? So we are done. We did the front, we did the back, and we are replacing or upgrading this vehicle from air tires, standard air tires, to solid wheels, solid tires. But to do that, we had to replace not just the tire, but we had to replace the whole motor and rim. Okay? Done.